Bonjour! So, as you can see, there's a new frame today. This is the flag of Haiti, in French, Haïti. Haiti was colonized by France in the 1600s and then fought a revolution in the 1790s, eventually gaining their independence in 1804. One of their official languages is French, on account of being colonized by the French. It was a slave colony. Yeah, just some facts. I'm going to try to do different flags that all have French as an official language in each video. So, as you can see, we are in Unité 2, Leçon 6, Lesson 6. So, what we are covering in this lesson is something that you supposedly covered at the end of French 1. Now, you were all at home when this part of French 1 was happening. This was after spring break, when we were on our sort of extended, forever COVID spring break. That was the rest of the year. And I know that many of you most likely stopped working or trying very hard to learn. So although you do know this, or you should, we're just fully gonna relearn it. So if you learned it in the spring, great. This will just be a review. If you didn't, and you're learning this for the first time, you're gonna be okay. Before we start, I want you to think to yourself, how do I conjugate avoir? And if you're taking notes, which you should be, even if it's just on the Google Doc I sent you, try to go ahead and conjugate it. Pause this video, try to conjugate avoir. This is going to be very important for this whole concept. All right, so the past tense, right? Currently, the tense that we have used the most, really the only tense we have used, is the present tense. When you conjugate a verb, you're conjugating it in the present tense, right? Je mange, I eat, or I am eating. I'm doing it right now in the present. You also know how to say things in the near future, right? Like I'm going to eat. Je vais manger, I am going to eat. And we know how to say the near past. Je viens manger. Je viens de manger, excuse me. I am coming from eating, or I just ate. Today, we're going to talk about the actual past tense. I ate, right? A completed action you did in the past. So, to describe past actions, the French use a past tense called the passé composé. And this just means composed past. Note the forms of the passé composé in the following sentences. Okay? So, j'ai acheté un jean. J'ai acheté un jean. I bought a pair of jeans. Okay? Marc a choisi une veste. Marc a choisi une veste. Marc chose a jacket. And nous avons attendu nos copains. Nous avons attendu nos copains. We waited for our friends. Okay, so as you can see, there are two words bolded in every sentence. This is where this term composed past, passé composé, comes in, because it is composed of two words. Okay, let's see if I talk about it on the next one. Yes. All right. So, the passé composé consists of two words, a helping verb and a past participle. For most verbs, the passé composé is formed as follows: the present tense of avoir and the past participle. Okay? So this, the present tense of avoir, is why I asked you to think about conjugating, or to just go ahead and conjugate avoir in your notes, because it is going to be the first word when you are using the passé composé for now. A wrinkle will be introduced later, but for now, and as you can see, for most verbs, the passé composé is formed with the present tense of avoir and the past participle. Okay, so like we can see here, they're color-coded. We're going to talk about past participles in a second. For now, just notice if you can see any patterns with them. So present tense of avoir, past participle. J'ai visité Paris. I visited Paris. Tu as visité Québec. You visited Quebec. Il or elle or un a visité un musée. He, she, one visited a museum. Nous avons visité Dakar. We visited Dakar. Vous avez visité Genève. You all visited Geneva. Or ils, elles ont visité Monaco. They visited Monaco. Right? So present tense of avoir, all in red here. And then you're probably noticing, oh, all of these past participles are the same. So this is how you form past participles. Take a second, take in this little chart, and I'm going to explain it. Okay, so for ER verbs, like visiter, right? For ER verbs, the infinitive ending is ER, obviously. So to form the past participle, you drop the ER and add E acute. Okay, E with an accent aigu, an acute accent. Okay, so this means travailler, the verb travailler, to work, in the past tense. If I'm just speaking for je, j'ai travaillé. Okay, so je, present tense of avoir is j'ai, and then travailler, I've dropped the ER from travailler and added E acute. J'ai travaillé, I worked. Okay, and that's how it works for all ER verbs. You drop the ER and add E acute. For IR verbs, you can see the infinitive ending is IR, so you will drop the IR and add I. Okay, so finir, to finish, would become fini. Nous avons fini, we finished. And then RE verbs, the infinitive ending is RE, which you will drop and add U. Okay, this one's a little strange, right? So attendre, to wait for, becomes attendu, because we drop the RE and add U. Sophie a attendu, Sophie waited. Okay, pretty simple, not super out there. So as long as you can form these two parts, you should have a pretty easy time with this. I think last semester most of my students had an easier time with this lesson. Like, this was the first easy lesson for a lot of them because it's super formulaic, right? Just present tense of avoir and then past participle, and really all you need to know is this, right? There are some irregular past participles, but none in this lesson, so we're not worrying about them. So this is how you use the passé composé. It is used to describe actions and events that took place in the past. It has several English equivalents. For example, j'ai visité Montréal. I visited Montreal. So that's one possible translation, right? I visited Montreal. It could also mean I have visited Montreal. If someone were to ask you, like, have you ever been to Montreal? You could say, j'ai visité Montréal. I have visited Montreal. Or it can mean I did visit Montreal. It's hard to switch between saying that in French and saying it in English. In French, you don't say the T. In English, you say Montreal. So any three of these are appropriate translations. I visited, I have visited, I did visit. Okay? So, some words that are going to help you, that you're going to see a bunch while using the passé composé, are words that tell you when something happened. And these are mostly going to be words that can describe the past, sort of, you'll see. So hier means yesterday. Samedi dernier means last Saturday. So dernier, you can use with any day of the week, right? It just means last. So last Saturday. If I said lundi dernier, it would mean last Monday. Okay? Avant. Avant means before. Après. Après you've probably seen. You know it from après-midi. Après means after. right? So après-midi is afternoon. Pendant. Pendant means during. All right, and the next four kind of all go together. So d'abord means first. D'abord, first. D'abord, j'ai acheté du pain. First, I bought some bread. Ensuite means next. Ensuite, j'ai préparé des sandwiches. Then, I prepared some sandwiches. Finalement means finally. Finalement, nous avons mis la table. Finally, we set the table. You can see here, this is one of those irregular past participles. You're not learning it right now. I'm just having you note it. Finally, we set the table. And enfin, last, means last, lastly. Enfin, nous avons dîné. Fine, at last, we ate. Okay, and there's only one more thing you really need to know before I set you loose doing some practicing, and that is, what if I want to make a sentence in the passé composé negative? So take a second, think about how you make a normal sentence negative. You put ne pas around the verb, right? But in the passé composé, we've got two words that are a part of the verb. So how are we going to make that negative? You're probably coming up with two options in your head, right? You're thinking either we put ne pas around both words, so it would be je n'ai acheté pas, or we just put it around the verb that's conjugated in the present tense, so it would be je n'ai pas acheté. That is the correct answer. So, you can see here, j'ai invité Paul. I invited Paul. Je n'ai pas invité Marc. I did not invite Mark. So the ne pas goes around the present tense of avoir. Goes around the helping verb. It's very important that you remember that this is called a helping verb. It's going to be important later. Eric a vendu sa guitare. Eric sold his guitar. Il n'a pas vendu son vélo. He did not sell his bike. Right? So ne pas goes around the verb avoir. And we leave past participle alone out in the cold. So this is the big takeaway. In negative sentences, ne pas goes around the helping verb. And in these sentences, it's an apostrophe because they start with a vowel. Okay. I think that's everything for this. So let's take a look at your practice just to say we've done it, so I don't have to film another video. Alright, so you have got sort of 6 sentences here. You're going to read about the following people, then say whether or not they did the things in parentheses. So you're going to get a sentence that sort of describes or tells you what someone is or is doing. I think they're all is. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, a sentence that describes a person, and then you are going to have to answer if they did the things in parentheses. So for instance, François est malade. Malade means sick. So François is sick. Did he play soccer? Did he watch TV? Okay, so if you're sick, you're not going to play soccer. You might watch TV. So the first one will be negative. Il n'a pas joué au foot. He didn't play soccer. And il a regardé la télé. He watched TV. So these are all going to be in the passé composé. So they are all going to use a helping verb and the past participle. So you are practicing making sure you can put verbs in the correct form of the passé composé. And then you're also practicing making sentences negative. So there are a few things going on here. 1, can you form the passé composé? And 2, can you understand the sentence well enough to understand if something should be negative or affirmative? They're not too difficult, and if there are words you don't know, they're in parentheses out to the side, but it is all words you know, and they're pretty short description sentences. And then, like there is a practice or a key at the bottom so you can check your answers. But I recommend really working through this before you even look at the key, just to make sure you're getting good practice for this, because this is going to be important for the rest of French too. A lot of what we're doing for the rest of the semester revolves around, can you do this? All right, so if you have any questions, send me an email. This is all you have until Wednesday, just the 2.5 quiz and then this 2.6 section. I want to give you plenty of time to do it because it is pretty intense. Not hard, but it's important, so I want to give you enough time to figure it out. Au revoir!